Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review. In this video I'm going to review Persian Pillars of the Gasoline Era by Vatican Shadow. Vatican Shadow is the industrial techno project of Dominic Ferno, mostly known for his power electronics project of Prurient that goes for multiple years. In this slightly newer direction of Dominic Ferno as Vatican Shadow, we see a bit of a different approach when it comes to the certain moods and a more atmospheric approach on the techno sound, going more into sounds of like ambient techno in some occasions rather than industrial techno. And it makes for a very interesting sound that pretty much gives the idea that you're listening to a project of Vatican Shadow. However, even his own unique approach, I think it has worked in very few occasions, with the most notable one being the EP Luxor Necropolitics, which was basically my introduction to Vatican Shadow, and this obviously gave me reasons to expect really great stuff from him, from his past works and also in future works, but this was not that much of the case, as I find that the majority of the works I've heard from Vatican Shadow would end up feeling average or, in their worst, slightly underwhelming. With that being said, I didn't get into this album necessarily having that many high expectations because I'm not really feeling the recent works of Vatican Shadow, with possibly the exception of an EP that he made last year, which I thought it was a decent project. Other than that, when it comes to full-length works, I sort of struggled to find something that would make me come back to it. Now the thing is that I find that this particular album has something a bit more exceptional and different to it, and even if it has a standard sound that you would expect from Vatican Shadow, I feel that this is one of the few occasions where I see an album that has an identity to it. The vibe and the moods that are presented on this album feel more apparent compared to other occasions, which in the majority the albums from Vatican Shadow might sound really empty without that much of a content to them. However, I think with the occasion of this album is where we get the feel of a tribal ambient project. In some respects, this does sound like something that I would hear from Muslim Gaza, for example. However, this one obviously does not go to the extent of experimentation and just weird passages and structures that you would expect from a Muslim Gaza project. Instead, this is once again another quite straightforward album, but unlike other occasions, this one sounds more direct and it gives a bit of a more memorable feel to it, something that would manage to make it stand out. However, other than that, in its majority, this album would still go in some pretty average ideas. Even if it would manage to be more memorable compared to other works, it's still not enough, as I feel that in this album in particular there's also quite a bit of a lost potential. I do like that unlike other works, this one is quite short, it's only 6 tracks and it goes for about 39 minutes, with the last two of them taking about more than half of the album, since they're 10 and 12 minutes long. By far the main highlight out of this album for me is the track Rehearsing for the Attack. In my opinion, this track has an amazing beat. It's definitely the most standout beat out of this whole project. It's a bit more aggressive and it has an extreme energy that gives the impression of a breakbeat in some occasions. And the interesting thing is that it's also combined with a very intriguing set of tribal synth and sampling, which the one thing that I like with this track in particular is that it doesn't give you a direct idea of what the main melody of this is. The main melodies of this track take quite some time. It's not your typical minimalistic loop section. Instead, with the exception of the beat, every single melody and sound in this thing, they take a while since we get to the point where they repeat themselves, and that gives room for the track to be listened more and more. It would possibly require a few listens in order to grasp everything that has going on to it, and I find that this is a spectacular element that gives the song reasons to come back to. The only other occasion where I saw this particular structure was with a fifth track, Moving Secret Money, which is a 10-minute track that has a bit of a less engaging beat to it. It's definitely more forgettable and less engaging compared to the second track, but it's another one of those tracks that I feel that when it comes to the melody, I like how once again it's not that minimal, and it basically made me want to pay attention to the entire song. And even with its 10-minute mark and the beat repeating itself over and over again, the track was not boring. Unfortunately though, the rest of the album is more of like basic average moments of industrial and ambient techno. Especially the third track was the weakest one in my opinion. It felt like a weak continuation of the previous track in terms of the melody sounding a bit similar, and it also has the weakest and the most bland beat out of this whole project. The rest of the tracks in my opinion are okay, but like I said before, I think the one thing that manages to make these tracks more special is the fact that it has a bit of a more apparent tribal ambience to it, and by having two really good songs, this album in particular, unlike most of the material from Vatican Shadow, manages to stand out in its own way and give me more reasons to come back to it. But in my opinion, there was still room for improvement. I'm going to give this album a 6 plus out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.